Hi, everybody. Welcome to our new Technology, Language, and Literacy course. I'm very excited actually to be teaching this. It's a new course for me, but also for the department, and really is a response to um, the interest in this area shown by many students who want to take this as a sort of thesis focus. However, it actually provides some challenges because historically, in LLE, we've had it's been very much focused on language education, and we're language and literacies are two very different kind of fields. They have connections, and I think increasingly they are can be thought about together. But historically, they haven't been, and that's sort of reflected in the research, and we'll sort of talk more about that as we go along. Um, However, because you will all be coming from, I presume that most of you who are coming to the course are interested in this because you either have interest in second language education, teaching, or interest in literacy. I've tried to kind of put together readings that I think are helpful and interesting. Some of them may be things that you're already familiar with, some of them may be things you're totally unfamiliar with. And my general take on this is don't worry about it because we will all be in this together and try to figure out where we are. Because second language teaching has largely come out historically and been framed within linguistic theory, and which is a very different kind of place from the sociocultural place that a lot of literacy, especially new literacies work, comes from. And literacies itself is a very each field has been through really significant changes conceptually, and the relationship with technology is also quite complex. So we're going to sort of trace this because and I think a big goal of the course for me is to try to have everybody get a good sense of how we got to where we are today. All of these are very contested areas. Issues like multimodality, for instance, isn't even an idea that everybody in the sort of literacy camp is particularly keen on because they think that it privileges technology. Thinking about the modality is somehow makes it more important than the literacy practices that undergird it. So these are not. It's not like there's a fixed set of stuff out there, or that everybody agrees with where we are. I think in the field, in either in language education or in literacy education. So there'll be lots of things to discuss and to think about. So I welcome your input. In the course, which I've sort of laid out here, in the course, I've actually made a view for people to put things in group repository for useful resources. So if you have articles that you think are relevant to particular issues that come up, or resources that you think are worth sharing, feel free to add them there, please. I've also tried to, because you will all come with different kinds of interests and different kinds of backgrounds, in the course administration view, I have put in, there's a, where's the thing, other readings. So along with the course outline, which you can go through and have a look at, there's a section on assignments and evaluation, which are explained in more detail. I also have a whole thing on other readings, and I'm going to be adding to this all the time as new things come up. So that's to give you some places to, some springboards really for your final papers for the course, and for us to talk about those as we go. So for those of you who are familiar with Pepper, you kind of know how to use this environment. If you're not sure, they're right actually on the login page. If there's a place, if you click on Pepper, the little icon, it will take you off to our website, which has a whole bunch of videos, which could be helpful to if you're not sure about something. But the quickest thing is to ask questions. So, and you should feel free to do that because everybody, everybody has different experience with these things. So in the technical questions and course help, if you have questions either about the course or about the platform, or you're having problems, pop them in there, because chances are somebody else is having the same problem. Excuse me. So yes, feel free to do that. There is a start here note, which basically orients you to the course and gets you to do some things to start up. I have a little technical overview of Pepper in here. It's a little older, but you have a look at that, because I think it can help if you're not familiar with that. And there's a set of activities that I want you to go through and do that are linked to sort of get you oriented to the course. Now, you'll notice that as you get started here, a big piece of what I'm focusing on, particularly at the beginning, and is also reflected in the first assignment, is this idea of communities of practice. And so I wanted to explain a bit about why am I doing this? What's that got to do with anything? Well, and the reason is because in several of my other online courses, I've found that one of the most effective ways to make some of this material, the material that you read, less inert and more useful, is to have you apply it in contexts that are more pragmatic. And so many of you will be wanting to either are doing ESL teaching or teaching literacy, or in some, and have some kind of professional community that is connected in some way to these kinds of ideas. And with some of you it'll maybe less direct, but and so what I want you to do is think about this course that we're in together as a community, as a little, our own little community of practice. And communities of practice is a kind of a way of thinking that it's kind of I guess you could call it a theory that is become very, very popular now. And I think that it has some real advantages, but it also can have limitations. But the best way to figure out what the advantages and limitations are of anything, actually, is to kind of throw yourself into that environment and see how it works for you. So it's a kind of a way of immersing ourselves in an idea and then reflecting on its value. And then there's another COP involved, another community of practice. I want you to get either reflect on an existing COP that you're part of. It may not be online, it may not have direct technology connections, but it's more. I think it's more important that you're part of an existing community, that you find an existing community, because it's hard to get started in a new community and get into that whole idea of moving between the community of the course and the community of your professional practice, and get all of that done in a term. But if you're not part of an existing community, you can a community of practice that's related to your professional or academic interests, then you can find one and you can talk to me about how to do that. I can give you some suggestions if you like. But most people do have something like that in their experience. And so what this provides is this kind of tension between this kind of, courses are always a bit theoretic, right? Because you're doing readings. I have to let the dog out. I'm doing this. She's going to start whining. Here you go. Go. And so that this tension between the kind of academic nature of our course community and the practical nature of our workplace, where these ideas are going to be applied. Now, they're not going to be applied wholesale, and they're going to be applied completely, but their relevance and their value and their ability to shape how you think about your professional life is why I have that kind of I build in that dialectic into this course. And it's been quite successful. So I thought I would try it in this course too, because it's such a dominant, the ideas of community and collaboration are so dominant in all of the work on online learning. So that's a way of also bringing in that kind of features of that kind of movement, if you like, into these discussions about literacy and language. So they're all going to kind of become connected to one another, and they allow us to to think about and reflect upon their value in that kind of way. So that's why I've emphasized that. So what do I want you to do here? I'm going to add more I've only got up to week 7 here. It's not that I haven't got, because it's there in the course outline. I'm still tweaking the second half of the course, and because a lot depends on how people respond to the first half of the course. So I'm not going to get those kind of written in stone right away. I'm going to kind of work on those over the next few weeks. I don't want to be too premature in deciding. I have got readings in there, and those are all kind of relevant and useful. But I'm going to add to that. And I'm also going to have you give me a kind of mid-course evaluation, midstream, to see how things are going for you. And we'll also do one at the end, which will be a kind of start, stop, and continue overall, so I can get your feedback on how this is working for you. Because I want it to be useful, and it's very hard to do that until I have a sense of what your needs are. And to that end, where I want you to start, and a very important part of this course, is these class biographies. I've put mine in here, and I've asked you to do this. I've asked you to say a little bit about your own history and how you came to be here in CTL, your goals for the course, and a description of your prior online experience. And it's just a way of helping us all kind of get to know one another. It's also a big part of how we make a community, because we need to set up an environment where we can feel trust and safety in order to be able to talk about things, in both things that might be contentious, but also things that might be challenging. It's very hard to express doubt or uncertainty when you feel that you're going to be judged or evaluated. And so what I try to do is create this sort of safe space, but I can't do it alone. I have to do it with you. And we all have to kind of create it together. And but when that happens, I think there's a really productive synergy that happens. And I've watched this now, because I've been teaching online now for many years, and I've been working in the area for more than 30 years. Of course, it was a little different in those days, but and I've watched all of the changes and the cycles of things going through, and it's a very fascinating kind of development. And now the dog wants to come in. See, this is the thing with dogs. It's also that she's hearing me talking to you, and she has this thing where she likes to join in conversations in her own strange and doggy way. Hopefully she'll be quiet. So that's why that's the point of the biographies. And also it's a way of figuring out, are there people in the course, for instance, that you might really work productively with, and you might want to do a collaborative paper at the end, or work on a kind of learning environment that you think might be helpful for you, for literacy or language development in a particular context. And so the more we know about each other, we can both figure out what, how to speak to one another and develop this sense of community over time. So that's really why I have focused on doing that. The other thing is, I know that you all come from different places, and I have my way of doing evaluation. I don't set limits on how many notes you add or to the conference each week. I expect you to participate. I think of it as a conversation, that reading is listening and writing is talking. Sometimes you do more talking than listening. Sometimes you do more listening than talking. And people will resonate more with particular weeks. And that's fine. And I expect that kind of variability, just the same way we would if we were sitting together in a fully face-to-face environment. Now, this is a fully online course. I don't have, I'm not using webinars or doing other things. And it's not really, I may do that in the future, but for this first iteration of the course, I thought it would be good to do it this way. The other thing is that it gives you an experience of you will most of you will be doing some kind of teaching situation in your life. And I think it's a really, really good experience to have to take an online course as a learner and reflect on that experience, because I think it's part of how you build that technological, pedagogical content knowledge, that TPAC, which is so important that those pieces are integrated, that your technological understanding and your pedagogical understanding and your subject matter understanding are really interconnected. And these kinds of experiences can really help you do that, I think. And actually TPAC is one of the things that I'm still debating whether to put into the course or not. So we'll see about that. So I think I'm going to stop now, because I just wanted to give you a bit of an orientation to the course, and sort of that we recognize that it's a journey. You can see, if you go through each of the weeks, if you go through the course outline, what the kinds of things that we're going to talk about. I've also given you suggestions about things like, make sure that you do go into, why is that not clicking? All right, go into preferences and make sure you set up notifications that they will, so that you will get notified about movements to, oh, here we go. Why did it take so long there? That was weird. It must be my computer. But anyway, you can set up notifications so Pepper will let you know if people have replied to a note, or if there's a new announcement, and if you're moderating for 1 week, very good idea to set that up so you're notified when people have put notes in that view, because that way you can go in and see what they've said, and it allows you to keep more current with that. What was the last thing? If you have any questions of any kind, you can communicate either by messages, which are up here, and you can make a message anywhere at any time. You can send me an email. You can put a note in the technical questions or technical and course questions view. There's lots of different ways to get in touch. My suggestion, if you haven't taken an online course before, the most important thing is don't worry about it. Get stuck in, read, engage. If you're at all worried or you have any questions, ask, because I'm more than happy to answer. I try to answer as quickly as possible, and I'm very... I always have some means of communication with me, so I will get back to you quickly. Because and if you don't know, when you haven't done this a lot, you may not know what kinds of problems you may run into, and you may have uncertainties, and the best way is just to deal with it. And I find that, especially in an online context, if something's worrying you, it seems bigger, because you don't have the immediate recourse of turning to the person next to you and saying, what was that about? So, so please reach out, because I'm here and willing to help. And in fact, you'll find that if you put comments in the technical and course questions view, that I bet you, if I don't get there first, one of the other students in the course will get there as well. So, that's part of working together as a community and what we want to achieve here. So I think that's enough of that now, because it's either my internet is behaving weirdly or something is going on, so I can't click through any more of these. So I will leave that for now, because I think that's enough chat to get started with. And so our course starts on Monday, and I'll put a note in the wall view just to sort of remind people, but I think you're already going to be on top of that. And I look forward to talking to you more as we continue our discussions. And so enjoy the rest of the few days of respite that we have, and I will talk to you more next week. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.